could each of you maybe just give your kind of concluding statements as to how you think the negotiations are going to go during the next year and what we can expect Mexico to come up with? If we could start with Michael, then go to David, and then finish with Richard.
Yeah, and I'll link this to some of the comments that have come in, and apologies, can't pick them all up. Several are about the EU's role, does it have any legitimacy, one from Lucas about the blame game, etc. Let me just say, I think a lot of fingers are pointed at China, but I think, according to the blame game, there's actually quite a few ways one could point fingers in various ways. I've alluded to some of them. And in my view, and this hinges on where do we go and the prospects, part of that does attach to the EU, which seems to be extraordinarily unclear about what it was trying to achieve in moving away from Kyoto. And I think it's left it, and indeed the world, in a very complicated and difficult position. Can the EU legitimately claim leadership? Well, no. I think the problem, in a part, was the EU alienated most of the developing world, and certainly all of the countries that David's alluding to, by trying to abandon Kyoto when it didn't have any coherent story as to what was expecting to get instead. And it was clear that whatever it may have been hoping for from the US was not remotely delivered according to the design the US sought. So I think there are prospects for a good outcome at Copenhagen, but only if, frankly, I believe that the EU and other industrialized countries kind of need to reverse that step, at least to the point of saying that you can't abandon the only existing legal structure under the UNFCCC. We have a pretty good story to tell about what's replacing it. And until we've got that story, I think we remain on the twin tracks, and I think we should accept that fact. And I think that is probably, in my view, the key to a successful outcome in Mexico.
David, if you could pick that up.
I suppose I don't really work on the Conference of Parties processes. My work on climate change is mainly with and through the IPCC. I suppose my concern is there a lot of practical experience on how you adapt to extreme weather, to climate variability, to water stress, all of which will serve to teach us how we can deal at least with impacts from climate change expected in the next 20 to 30 to 40 years. And this will begin to allow a more nuanced discussion on how adaptation funding can support a multiplicity of locally driven adaptations rather than seeing success on adaptation as to how much money is being put forward.
Richard, if you'd like to give...
Okay, let me first say what I hope is obvious. I have not been and I will not be speaking on behalf of the U.S. State Department. I'm retired, and my views, all of them, are certainly not shared by those in the State Department or others. So I'm speaking, for myself and from my own experience. My answer to your question is that I think that, as I said in my opening remarks, we are on the right track. Frankly, I think that the Kyoto Protocol approach was totally flawed. It was going nowhere, and the fact that we're now moving to a situation where China and the United States and all of the major emitters are committing themselves to put forward plans and to subject them to consultation and review with the other parties is a very hopeful step. So in the longer run, I'm encouraged. I think we're heading in the right direction now. We have everybody playing the same game on that track, which I think is the track that is going to work for us eventually. In the next year, there are uncertainties, as I said, that whether the United States can move quickly enough so that in Mexico it will be able to say with confidence what it will be able to do on cap and trade and other measures to reduce emissions. I'm not sure, but I think we're heading in the right direction. I'm just not that confident we'll get there all the way there this year.